milion
50% and we should be able to do better than that.
dhe rreth 50% evazion. Pra, le të themi kemi disa opsione, por po punojmë fort. Dhe këto protesta false që po ndodhin janë protesta për të krijuar trazira.
I think, Mr. President, also the $500 billion invested in artificial intelligence and the frontier technologies last
Bilionat e investuar në inteligjencën artificiale, zoti president, po sjellin rritje eksponenciale në SHBA. Në fakt, Mark Zuckerberg më tregoi hartën e Manhattan.
It's a plant that was miles long, miles wide, very high. I don't think it was high like the Empire State Building, but it was high.
Ishte një hartë goxha e madhe dhe
most of the island of Manhattan. That's called a big plant. And you know, when I heard they're going to spend 50 billion building, and I said, what? If you spend 50 million, you can build a nice little shopping center. If you spend 500 million, you can build a good shopping center. But how do you spend 50 billion when I looked at this thing?
Dhe 50 biliona ishte vlera e investimit në këtë gjë. Dhe nga
This way we have no problem, and otherwise they'd be complaining. There'd be nobody able to be, we have an old grid system. And not only that, they're going to sell at a very cheap price the excess electricity that they create back into our grid. So that'll solve some problems for certain states that don't have enough electricity.
We also know that on the AI there is fierce
Në
competition.
lidhje me inteligjencën artificiale ka kompeticion
27% of the global GDP and 5% of the global population, not doing that badly, and China.
me Kinën.
We know that competition is very tough.
Dhe dim që ky kompeticion është shumë I fortë.
To a state visit to China in April. How do you see the US
Si e shihni marrëdhënien Kinë-SHBA në vijim? Mendoni që mund të kombinoni këtë kompeticion, ta ktheni në një bashkëpunim? Unë kam një marrëdhënie shumë të mirë me presidentin e Kinës dhe kam një marrëdhënie shumë të mirë me Xi Jinping, është një njeri jashtëzakonshëm I respektuar dhe ka qenë ndërprer për shkak të Covidit sepse shkoja shpesh në Kinë.
And I decided to do that because why should we have a problem over that? But I would do that, and they were
a true diplomat, huh?
I became a diplomat for the first time.
U bëra diplomat për herë të parë.
Marco Rubio. He said, "Let me teach
Si
you
Marco
about
Rubio.
diplomacy. Hey, any guy that gets approved by 100% of the votes, think of it. He got liberal Democrats and radical right Republicans to approve him. He's the only one. The next one.
Ai është I vetmi I aprovuar nga qoftë nga radikalët, nga të dyja palët.
I wasn't happy about it. I said, wait a minute, I don't like that. And now it turns out that the Democrats probably wish they didn't do that. And Marco has been fantastic. Marco
ka qenë I jashtëzakonshëm.
He's going to go down as the best secretary of state.
Ai është sekretari më I mirë që kemi pasur.
Susie, who's the first
Kemi
female
Suzy që është femra, zonja e parë.
And I see Howard Lutnick, who I know spoke, and Howard's fantastic. Some of the deals we're doing are great. And
Marrëveshjet që këta po bëjnë janë të jashtëzakonshme.
because we have Chris, and Chris, you got up and spoke, I think. He's the #1 oil man in the world, because I was going to put Doug Burgum, who's fantastic. I don't know if Doug's here. Is Doug here? Doug Burgum is fantastic. He said, "Sir, there's one man better than me." And he introduced me to Chris, and he turns out to be. So we're drilling more oil and gas now than we ever have by.
Tani jemi duke nxjerrë më shumë naftë se ç'kemi bërë më parë.
We got a lot coming out of Venezuela. So anyway, so we're doing great. The country is
Duke arritur rekordet të jashtëzakonshme, me njerëz të jashtëzakonshëm. Kemi Jared, kam probleme se kur të kthehem, unë kam mbledhur njerëzit më të aftë.
Thank you, Mr. President. We also know that you're a deal maker.
Ne dim që ju jeni biznesmen
To Greenland
dhe do të ktheheni në Greenland dhe çështjes së Ukrainës. Cila marrëveshje
you see between the US and Denmark?
mendoni të arrini sa takon kësaj çështjes me Danimarkën?
Well, it's costing Denmark hundreds of millions a year to run it. And Denmark's a small country.
Danimarka një shtet I vogël me njerëz të mirë, por
Very expensive. It's a very big
është shumë I shtrenjtë, është Grelanda është një copë e madhe